Hello everyone, my name is Jackie Nyamutumbu and I am a student at the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences. I am here to give you a brief presentation about the effects of food deserts in America and, as much as possible, specifically for Arkansas, and how food deserts impact large chunks of our national and local populations. I hope to outline the current food usage and availability in the United States over the last 10 years or so. I will then outline how food deserts fit into the disparities experienced by people who have little access to food. Then, lastly, I will outline possible ways to minimize the effects of food deserts through policies and initiatives that could be put into place to accommodate healthy eating for all individuals in areas that are food deserts. Firstly, let me give you some insight on the amount and types of food currently consumed in the United States. According to the USDA, individuals in the United States consumed 363 more calories per day in 2009 than individuals did in 1960. On average, in year 2000, males consumed 2,475 calories and women 1,833 calories, with 33% of those calories coming from fat and 11% coming from saturated fats. The bulk of the calories come from carbohydrates, though, an average of about 52% for most people. This increase in total caloric intake has thus contributed to an increased obesity prevalence in the United States. According to Stephen Goyenet of WholeHealthSource.com, there is a high positive correlation between caloric intake and adult obesity prevalence in the United States. The alarming rise in caloric intake also has a high positive correlation with the amount of fast food and overly processed food consumed by the majority of individuals in the U.S. According to the ERS, an average of 31% of U.S. citizens' daily caloric intake was from outside the home sources, such as restaurants and fast food places. The fast foods consumed in excess, such as ice cream and French fries, are generally high in carbohydrates and or caloric sweeteners such as corn syrup. Such high caloric intake is unfortunately coupled with very little physical exercise. According to the President's Council on Fitness, Sports and Nutrition, less than 5% of adults participate in 30 minutes of physical exercise each day, meaning more than 80% of adults and children do not meet any of the guidelines for the recommended allotted amount of aerobic physical exercise. More so, there is a high correlation between high caloric intake from fast foods and demography, race, and income. According to the CDC, young black adults between 20 and 39 years of age consume more than a fifth of their calories from fast food, significantly more than Hispanic and white people in the same range. More so, young adults within the lower economic strata consume a significantly larger amount of fast food than those in higher economic standing. This is where the real effects of food deserts are truly felt. Food deserts are not necessarily widespread throughout the U.S., but are rather concentrated in economically disadvantaged areas or in areas of one particular demographic group, as we will discuss throughout the presentation. Now, let's get into the details of these so-called food deserts. I will start off by determining what a food desert is. According to the USDA, food deserts are defined as urban neighborhoods and rural towns without ready access to fresh, healthy, and affordable food. And that was a quote. These communities usually have a great lack in any affordable, available food option and are rather mainly catered for by fast food restaurants. Food deserts are mainly areas whereby people living more than a mile away from a grocery store live. And in rural areas, the food deserts are considered to be areas 10 miles or more away from a grocery store. The following map shows the areas within the US that can be considered to contain food deserts. It's quite a lot. The green areas show places that are more than a mile away from a grocery store, while the yellow areas are places where the nearest supermarket is more than 20 miles away. The individuals in these areas do not usually have access to cars either, making access that much more difficult. The following map shows access and proximity to grocery stores, particularly for Arkansas, as you can see circled around there, and some neighboring states. The darker color shows the largest density of grocery stores, which is more than 10,000 grocery stores within the county, and the lightest color shows the density of 0 to 2,500 grocery stores for the whole county. Although Central Arkansas seems to be doing well in terms of food availability, most of Arkansas still has a great food accessibility discrepancy. As a student, when I first encountered the staggering data, I considered how much I complain about how far I have to go to the 2 Walmart stores, the 2 Kroger stores, and several local farms that surround my neighborhood in about a 5-mile radius. I quickly realized how we in Faulkner and Pulaski County are immensely privileged to have access to real food very easily. Interestingly, these areas that have the least access to healthy food seem to be the areas with people that have limited resources to enable them to either leave the county to access food or have enough money to drive or go to extra lengths to have access to food. As shown by the 2 maps, the discrepancies for grocery stores is highly correlated to the average income of the persons who live in those areas. The darkest areas on the income map signify the areas where the median income is highest, and the lighter areas signify the areas where the people live there have less than 35,000 of a median annual income, so the highest is above 65,000. In most instances, the areas with fewer grocery stores are also the areas with lower median household incomes. This is very important. Considering this influx of information, the question still remains, why should we worry about the prevalence of food deserts in America and in Arkansas specifically? One of the biggest reasons, as is obvious, are the health effects associated with little access to fresh, affordable food, as we spoke about earlier in the presentation. The fall-colored map, here shown, shows the adult obesity rates by county in Arkansas, with the darkest color representing areas with more than 35% obesity, and the lightest colors less than 26% of an obesity rate within that county. Although not as clear-cut as the other correlations, most of the areas with high obesity rates are also the low-income areas and the areas with the fewest grocery stores in Arkansas. This lack of access leads to high levels of obesity and disease such as diabetes and heart disease. These diseases are consequences of high sugar, fat, and caloric intake from the accompanying high concentration of cheap restaurant food and food deserts in these areas. And if you look at the delta areas that are circled on all 3 maps, you can definitely see that the higher the obesity rate, the lower the income, and the lower the number of fresh food grocery stores. More so, very few people actually want to live in areas with such low access to food, so more people leave, which reduces the tax base of the city, town, or county. Therefore, the areas most affected by food unavailability, such as Hughes, Arkansas, have little economic power, restricting the feasibility of, mind my pun, planting a grocery store there. Although some people can leave, the real disadvantage lies with those who are bound to the food deserts by one thing or another. Most people who stay in food deserts lack the money to relocate and are too old to relocate or sustain themselves without being attached to their family, or some people just try to maintain some form of family heritage. Maybe it's a family farm that's in a food desert area. Now that we have extensively discussed the problem of food deserts, the next step is to inquire about why food providers are not investing resources into food deserts. I will explore the possible solutions to increase the access of food to all people, especially those within food deserts. In the next few slides, I will try and outline existing policies and initiatives, and also suggestions for initiatives that could be implemented in these areas. Although mine are suggestions, I'm mainly taking them, the initiatives, from some examples that have successfully worked in the past in other places. First, let's look at some reasons why food providers such as grocery stores have not invested in food desert areas despite the widely known need for food in these communities. Many big supermarket enterprises do not invest in building or operating stores in food deserts because the market does not seem conducive for them economically. For example, the price for rent may be extremely high in food desert areas, so the companies are not able to purchase large plots of land to accommodate the superstores, parking lots, storage spaces, and other required resources to build something so big. More so, a small rural village in Arkansas or other states would not be able to sustain a large Walmart store or a Kroger store. Some food deserts are likely far away from delivery routes and fresh food providers, such that it will be too costly or impractical to invest in these areas for some of the big stores. Another important factor to consider is just the preference of the communities that might be hard for a superstore to cater for. For example, if a store is trying to establish in a small town that is a neighborhood of individuals who love gizzards, chitlins, and cow tongue for cultural and economic reasons, most large-scale grocery stores will not be able to meet the demand of the social needs of the neighborhood. That may seem like a stretch, but that is a bit of an exaggerated example. But there are many instances where the society's needs are just not met by the stores that are around. Now that we know what deters food providers, let's determine how we can draw companies in or meet them halfway through policy changes. One policy that could be implemented is that of changing zoning modifications. Zoning is the means by which governments limit land use within a specific area. Loosening zoning regulations ensures that bigger stores do not feel as restricted, thus as deterred to build stores in smaller, isolated regions. Also, how other policies can be implemented that encourage the selling of healthier products by the few available merchants. For example, there was an initiative carried out in New York called Healthy Bodegas, whereby local sellers were encouraged to sell healthier products such as fruits and vegetables. The Healthy Bodegas was coupled with a Healthy Bucks program, which started in 2005, that offered $2 coupons to be used exclusively for purchasing healthy food from the bodegas. The programs are also used to disseminate material about healthy food, healthy living, and better food choices. These two programs enabled the promotion of healthy living, created a market for the bodegas to sell their goods, and provided an easy route to disseminate information. Possible initiatives to accommodate smaller markets could be opening up a smaller subsidiary of superstores. For example, Tesco opened the Fresh and Easy neighborhood markets in California and the Southwest. Some other large companies have started initiatives such as Food for Less that offer fewer bargain products in areas with low access to food. These methods enable the big superstore enterprises to still invest in smaller areas where the need is great. Other possibilities would be to encourage schools, churches, nursing homes, and other communities to engage in partnerships with local farmers so that the establishments receive the food they need. This will encourage the consumption of fresher food with lesser preservatives and chemicals, and also encourage the production of income for local farmers, which will likely promote the involvement of other small farmers so that they locally sell their products in their communities and not to external enterprises. In conclusion, I do recognize that we're still very far from making large progress towards alleviating food deserts, and that's something we should not forget. But it is achievable, especially through smaller local initiatives, as has been seen. before. So it's something that we should work to, but there are successful initiatives out there, and we should definitely try and replicate them, and we can definitely achieve alleviation. So now these are the references that I used for my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any ideas about potential initiatives that could work in your community, please feel free to contact me via phone or email. I would love to hear from you. Thank you once again.